Welcome to another Urban Outdoors in SoCal video. My name is Danny Milton, and today we're talking about the Gopro Rollcage. The reason why I'm trying out the Rollcage is because I'm trying to dial in the way I have my GoPro set up. I was using the Stuntman harness, and that worked really well. The only problem is that the straps of the harness would interfere if I was wearing a backpack as well. So I tried to streamline that. I went from that to having the GoPro on the chin mount of my full face helmet. And I like that as well. I was getting a really good angle of the camera. The only problem is wearing that helmet or carrying that helmet, your head starts to get really hot, especially on long climbs. In here, Southern California, you know, it gets pretty warm. So now what I'm using is the UOSocal backpack, and that has the GoPro. I purchased the GoPro chest mount that attaches to that backpack. So very streamlined, very good backpack. I'm probably going to do a review on that as well. Typically, when I have the GoPro mounted, I have the foam wind slayer over the GoPro to block out the wind noise. And the wind slayer was working really well. The only problem with the wind slayers is that they're kind of cheap. They're made out of this foam material and they tend to tear. So I was usually going through a foam, wind slayer about once a month, maybe twice a month, and it starts to add up. I'm also going to show you some video of how I have the camera attached to my backpack with just the camera itself, then a picture of it with the roll cage on, and then I'll show you some close-up pictures of what the roll cage looks like with the little piece of foam kind of stuffed in between it and the GoPro. So what I want to do with the roll cage is, first I wanted to see, just using the roll cage on the camera itself, if that would block out enough of the wind noise, and I'll show you some video that I've got just using that setup. Down the luge, got the roll cage on. Dirt should be pretty good as long as we don't hit any too many muddy spots. Feels like my... And then another setup I tried to put the wind slayer, the foam wind slayer, on the outside of the roll cage to see if that would block the wind noise, and I can show you some examples of that as well. Thank you. Just me. Woo. But both of those situations weren't really blocking out enough of the wind noise, because there is 3 different microphones, and just the GoPro by itself doesn't block out enough wind noise for me. It blocks out a lot, but there's still some wind noise there, so that's why I use the wind slayers. So what we're doing today is I cut a small piece of foam, put it on the inside of the roll cage, between the roll cage case and the GoPro, and we're going to test to see how that works. Hopefully it'll work really well. That'll be probably the best situation as far as, the blocking the wind noise, having the GoPro protected, and being able to use ND filters in the future as soon as PolarPro comes out with them. Oh. Rider. I cut a little bit of a bigger piece of foam to put in between the GoPro and the roll cage. It seems that the software inside the GoPro is, if I'm holding still like this, just talking to the camera, even with the same setup with the foam piece and the roll cage, it will pick up that wind noise because it's set to auto. That's the way I usually have it set. So anytime I'm holding still like this, it will pick up some of the wind noise. But once I get moving and get going down the trail, I guess, however it senses the wind, it cuts out that wind noise with the same exact setup. So if we're gonna do a couple runs on links with this final setup, and give you my overall opinion of how this is gonna work, the setup is gonna work, and if I'm gonna continue to use it in the future. Oh, a little muddy there at the bottom. So one other factor that I wanted to mention really quickly too is, depending on how windy the day is, on some of the shots, some of the days were a little bit windier, some of the days weren't so windy. On the days where there's not a lot of, wind in general, I mean, obviously when you're riding the bike, you're generating wind noise. The camera by itself and with just the roll cage, it does a fairly good job. Those days where there's a little bit more wind, you're definitely going to need that wind slayer on there to cut out a lot of that wind noise. Of all the different ways that I put, the wind slayer on the GoPro, whether it's just the wind slayer itself, just the roll cage by itself, or the roll cage with the foam piece, my favorite of all of those different scenarios is the larger piece of foam inside the roll cage, kind of protecting it that way. Like I said, in the future we can use those PolarPro ND filters as well. So that's it. Thanks for watching the video. Do all that fun stuff for me, please. Like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. And if you would, click on one of these boxes up in the corners. One's going to take you to a review, another one to a ride, and click that logo in the bottom, the Urban Outdoorsman SoCal logo, to subscribe. Thanks a lot.